On a sweltering August afternoon in 2017, a young woman, 8 months pregnant and full of quiet anticipation, slowly climbed the stairs to a neighbor's apartment, unaware she was stepping into a nightmare she would never escape. Hours later, behind a closed door, something unspeakable unfolded. A scene so brutal, so disturbingly calculated, that even seasoned investigators would struggle to comprehend it. A life meant to welcome new beginnings was instead met with unimaginable horror, driven by obsession, deception, and a chilling desire that had been festering for years. And when the truth finally began to surface, it revealed a crime so twisted it would shock an entire nation. But the most terrifying part is what really happened inside that apartment. Before we begin, if you're new, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, let's get into it. On the morning of Saturday, August 19th, 2017, Norberta Gray watched her 22-year-old pregnant daughter, Savannah, struggle to make her way up the stairs to her third-floor neighbor's apartment. At 8 months pregnant, the intense August heat made it especially hard for Savannah to walk on her swollen legs. A few hours later, William Home, the boyfriend of Brooke Cruz, the same neighbor who had invited Savannah over, went up those same stairs and entered the apartment. Inside, he found Brooke cleaning the bathroom while Savannah's bloodied and mutilated body lay on the floor, and a newborn baby rested in a basin on top of the toilet lid. When Brooke saw William, she picked up the infant, handed it to him, and said, "This is our baby. This is our family. Please help me." In a shocking violation of basic morality, William helped Brooke clean up the blood, carried bags of blood-soaked towels and clothing out of the apartment, wrapped Savannah's body in bags secured with duct tape and rope, and later disposed of it.
William Hain and Brooke Cruz are both charged with conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and providing false information to law enforcement.
The brutal crime would soon send shockwaves throughout the nation. Savannah Gray Wynn was born on August 9th, 1995, in Belcourt, North Dakota. Her parents, Norberta and Joe Gray Wang, were Native American, and she belonged to the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe. Not long after her birth, the family relocated to Fargo, but returned to the reservation when she was 9. Raised in a lively, multicultural community steeped in tradition, Savannah grew up close to nature and deeply connected to her family, whom she cherished most. This close-knit circle also included her grandparents and 3 siblings. Savannah loved horses and had a kind, caring nature. At Warwick Public High School, she was known as a dedicated student with average grades. It was there that she met Ashton Matheny, who, like her, belonged to the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe. Their relationship quickly deepened, and by 2010, they believed they had found their lifelong partner. Although they envisioned building a home together, it was still early in their lives. Through his daily time with Savannah, Ashton saw her strong maternal instincts, as she loved children, especially her nephews, whom she helped raise with great happiness. Later, Savannah attended Lakes Region State College, where she earned certification as a nursing assistant, eventually leading to a job at a senior care facility. When the facility was taken over by a large American company, Savannah was transferred to Fargo. In January 2016, to keep her company, her entire family moved there as well, renting a modest ground floor apartment. At the time, Ashton was living and working in Minneapolis, about 270 miles away, and made regular efforts to visit her. During these visits, they often talked about saving money so they could eventually live together. In the apartment above Savannah's lived a couple, Brooke and William. Brooke, born on July 4th, 1979, had a troubled past despite being raised in a typical family in Florida. She had long been known for her difficult behavior, and her relationships over the past 2 decades revealed patterns of obsession, uncontrolled aggression, and a tendency to intimidate others. At 17, in 1995, Brooke gave birth to a daughter from her relationship with Aaron Edwards. After becoming a mother, she worked as an animal technician at a pet store and later as a sales representative. However, she eventually left the state without any explanation, abandoning both her husband and daughter. She went on to live on the fringes of the law, serving time in Missouri for passing bad checks, and later in Texas for violating parole, during a period when she was working as a waitress in a Chinese restaurant. When her daughter turned 14, Brooke began communicating with her online through a social network, keeping the contact brief and hidden from Aaron, who had not heard from his ex-wife since she left. Over the years, Brooke had numerous relationships, which she openly boasted about until she remarried in 2006, this time to Carl Cruz, a carpenter from Minnesota. Together they had 2 children, and Brooke worked as Carl's administrative assistant. After 3 years, Brooke left for a time, and when she returned, Carl discovered she had been keeping detailed records and diaries documenting unusual matters. The most disturbing entries included accounts of her various relationships and, more alarmingly, thorough notes on pregnancies and terminations. She had even compiled lists of items needed to dispose of an unborn child. These lists included scissors, knives, tweezers, gloves, and oxytocin to induce contractions or trigger a miscarriage. In 2010 and 2011, Brooke traveled to Australia, and during one of those trips, she experienced a spontaneous miscarriage. Doctors later told her she would no longer be able to have children. Toward the end of that year and the beginning of the next, Brooke was arrested for attacking her husband Carl with a knife.
It's a difficult time for the family of this young woman, Savannah Graywind. They're dealing with her loss and the stress of planning a funeral.
After being released, she returned to Australia under a false identity. In a sworn statement during a custody dispute over their 2 children, Carl wrote that she often ran from her problems, pointing to her trips to Australia as an example of her living entirely on her own terms. There, Brooke met Andrew Murray, a chef from Katoomba, through a dating app, quickly moved to the Blue Mountains, and married him. However, Andrew soon uncovered the many lies surrounding his new wife, including the fact that she had hidden her real identity, her previous marriage, and her children. Despite the deception, he fell in love and chose to try to make the relationship work. He remained by Brooke's side, but gradually became unsettled by her fixation on real-life crimes. Her obsession with criminal psychology and notorious offenders became her primary reading interest and a constant topic of conversation. At first, Andrew viewed it as an unusual but harmless interest, but his outlook changed when she started threatening him. As her behavior became more aggressive, he grew increasingly concerned. He suggested she return to the United States to take care of her children, but this only escalated matters. Brooke threatened to report him to authorities and tried to intimidate him, making him believe he was being pursued by the police. Worn down by her delusions, Andrew went to the nearest police station and offered to cooperate, knowing he had nothing to hide. Officers told him there were no charges against him and indicated that something seemed wrong with his wife. He described the ordeal he had endured, including threatening messages and immigration documents bearing false identities. In total, 6 months and 10 days passed from Brooke's arrival in Australia until she returned to the United States in October 2012. Back in the United States, Andrew stayed in contact with Brooke for about 2 weeks, considering whether to relocate and try to repair their marriage. However, he soon realized it was pointless. Troubled by her unstable behavior, he reported his concerns to Fargo police about the potential risks she posed, but his warnings appeared to be dismissed. In the end, Andrew cut off all contact with Brooke and moved on. Meanwhile, Brooke became involved in an extended custody dispute with Carl over their 2 children. Around that same period, in late 2012, she started a relationship with William, who was a few years younger than her. Little is known about his background, but it is reported that he had recently served time for child neglect and abuse after taking his son to the hospital in January 2011 with fractures near his right ear. Their intense and fast-moving relationship led Brooke and William to move into an apartment in the same Fargo building where Savannah's family resided. William, convinced he was in an unbreakable love.
We're having a baby shower actually for him tomorrow. We just wanted to have a little send-off and some happiness after everything.
Dreamed of building a home and family with Brooke. Although Brooke initially returned his feelings, she soon faced serious difficulties conceiving. At the same time, she was frustrated after the court granted full custody of her 2 children to her ex-husband Carl, leaving her with only visitation rights. She supported herself through temporary work in stores and various nursing homes. Over time, her feelings toward William shifted, as shown in her diary entries. On December 23, 2014, She was diagnosed with anxiety at a Fargo medical center and informed she was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. To worsen matters, the following year she received medical results indicating a growth in her gallbladder, which further deepened her emotional decline. In her personal notes, she later described a shadow that seemed to take over her personality throughout that year and the next two. Their relationship alternated between calm routine and occasional conflicts. In light of the tragic events that followed, investigators later suggested that Brooke may have been trying to find a way to satisfy her desire to become a mother again and to prevent William from leaving her. While Brooke's life seemed to be falling into chaos, Savannah and Ashton's relationship appeared increasingly hopeful. At the beginning of 2017, they received the joyful news that they were expecting their first child. The family's excited reaction only strengthened the couple's anticipation for a better future together. Ashton worked harder than ever to achieve their long-awaited independence and planned marriage in the fall of 2017. They were later told by doctors that they were expecting a baby girl, which filled them with happiness. Around that same time, their upstairs neighbor, with whom Savannah's family had only a polite and distant relationship, approached the pregnant young woman and invited her to use an illegal substance. Savannah refused the offer and immediately told her family about the inappropriate suggestion, especially given her advanced pregnancy. From that point on, Norberta and Joe, Savannah's parents, became suspicious of Brooke and her boyfriend William. Saturday, August 19, 2017 started like an ordinary day. At 22 years old and 8 months pregnant, Savannah appeared radiant but understandably fatigued, eagerly awaiting her baby's due date. Shortly after noon, Brooke called Savannah to her apartment, asking for help with sewing and saying she needed her to try on a dress. Despite her reservations, Savannah agreed to help. Once inside, Brooke became aggressive and accused Savannah of mistreating her cats. At 1:30 p.m., Ashton sent Savannah a message, but it went unanswered. A sudden physical altercation broke out between the two women, during which Savannah fell and struck her head. Savannah lost consciousness, and Brooke took the opportunity to retrieve a knife. In a disturbing attempt to take the baby, she carried out an improvised and unskilled procedure.
Eventide Fargo Executive Director Chris Gilson on what the death of Savannah means to their facility.
Losing Savannah is honestly truly like losing one of our family members.
Savannah briefly regained awareness and tried to move, but she was severely injured and ultimately died from extensive blood loss. Fearing for his daughter and already suspicious of the neighbor, Joe knocked on Brooke's door, but was met with evasive answers. William's exact role remains disputed, with investigators considering different possibilities. In one version of events, he arrived after Savannah had already died. In another, he encountered the scene and became involved in its aftermath, taking additional actions that contributed to ensuring she did not survive. What is certain is that Brooke showed the newborn to William, telling him they finally had a family. William then cleaned up the crime scene, collecting evidence such as shoes and blood-stained towels, and disposed of them far away. The couple later discarded Savannah's body in the Red River on the outskirts of Fargo, near the Minnesota border. Meanwhile, Savannah's family, alarmed by repeated unanswered calls, reported her missing that same Saturday afternoon. Police arrived at their home at 5 p.m. and, after speaking briefly with Norberta and Joe, learned where Savannah had last been seen. They went upstairs and knocked on Brooke and William's door, but their first visit revealed nothing unusual, so they left. However, a few hours later, still without any sign of Savannah, officers returned to Brooke and William's apartment for further questioning. Meanwhile, investigators interviewed Ashton, whose alibi was confirmed the following day. As a result, on Sunday, August 20th, 2017, police returned to the couple's residence for a third time. Although Brooke and William maintained their version of events and no evidence was found, officers again left without answers. Ashton began taking action on his own, spending every moment informing locals about Savannah's disappearance and asking for help in finding her. During those painful hours, the soon-to-be father repeatedly replayed his last conversation with Savannah, searching for any logical explanation for her sudden disappearance. Following the available timeline of events and key leads, police brought William in for questioning at the station. He attempted to cooperate as best as he could in dealing with the situation. Back at home, both Brooke and William were caring for the newborn, purchasing supplies for feeding and clothing her. They also began telling people in their circle that they had become parents, a detail that quickly reached investigators. Suspecting that Savannah might be being held somewhere, police began monitoring the couple. Eventually, on Tuesday, August 22, 2017, officers raided Brooke and William's apartment after forcing entry past a sofa that had been used to block the door. Inside, they encountered a chaotic scene on the bed. A newborn baby, only a few days old, was found and immediately taken to the emergency room. Brooke refused to answer any questions from police, and both she and William were taken into custody. At the station, William stated that when he returned home that Saturday, Brooke was holding the baby and desperately trying to clean up the scene. His statements began to unravel the disturbing sequence of events. On Thursday, August 24th, 2017, Brooke and William were formally arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and providing false information to law enforcement. Fortunately, the baby was found to be in good health. Later genetic testing provided key evidence linking those responsible for Savannah's death. 3 days afterwards, Savannah's body was recovered on the banks of the Red River, wrapped in plastic and tape. The autopsy concluded she had died as a result of homicidal violence, though it remained uncertain whether the cause was blood loss or airway obstruction. DNA testing confirmed the newborn was Savannah's child. The baby was placed in the care of county social services and later given the name chosen by her biological parents. Ashton later shared a photo on social media of himself holding the infant.
Brooke Cruz will serve life in prison without parole for conspiracy to commit murder and 20 years for conspiracy to commit kidnapping.
In a brief moment of overwhelming joy amid the tragedy, a candlelight vigil was held in Savannah's memory on the evening of Wednesday, September 6, 2017. The next morning, Thursday, September 7, 2017, a funeral service took place at First Assembly Church. The ceremony was open to the public and drew nearly 1,000 mourners who came together with her family and friends to pay their final respects. Through tears, Native American songs filled the air as Savannah was honored and remembered as a kind, loving young woman. The town's mayor also spoke in tribute to her life. Many attendees wore red shirts to symbolize not only Savannah's death, but also the many indigenous women who have suffered similar fates. After the service, a horse-drawn carriage carried her casket to the cemetery, followed by 10 horses, including one that was riderless. Only Savannah's family attended the burial, placing various items on her coffin in accordance with their tribal beliefs to accompany her into the afterlife. In later interviews, Ashton shared that he experienced recurring nightmares following the tragedy. Still, he received strong support from friends in the wider community. One notable gesture was the creation of a fundraising account in his and the baby's name to help with essential expenses. After being granted legal custody of the child, Ashton focused entirely on her care and well-being. With the help of Savannah's parents, he spent his days bathing, feeding, and changing the baby, making sure she was provided for. As he later told the media, he came to see himself as both father and mother. Brooke's trial began in early December 2017 at the Fargo courthouse. At 6 months old, Savannah's baby was present in her father's arms during the proceedings, where Ashton learned in detail about the circumstances surrounding Savannah's death. The prosecutor emphasized that Savannah's baby took her first breath as her mother took her last, and requested a life sentence without parole for Brooke, describing her as dangerous and heartless. Brooke's defense attorney argued for life with the possibility of parole, stating that in his 38-year career he believed people could change, and pointing to Brooke's acceptance of responsibility. In February 2018, during the sentencing hearing, moments before the judge delivered the verdict, Brooke apologized to Savannah's family for the pain she had caused, acknowledging that there was no justification and nothing that could undo her actions. Ultimately, Brooke was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the crime against Savannah. William, after accepting a plea deal and fully cooperating with investigators, avoided charges of conspiracy to commit murder and kidnapping the baby. Instead, he was convicted on lesser charges of conspiracy to kidnap and providing false information to law enforcement.
Now, one neighbor tells me yesterday on the street, he counted a line of 13 cars in a matter of minutes slowly going down the street, saying it looked like a parade. In
However, the judge classified William as a particularly dangerous offender, citing his prior conviction for child neglect and abuse, which raised his potential sentence from 20 years to life imprisonment. At the sentencing hearing, William expressed remorse, but during the victim impact statement, Savannah's mother stated that his remorse was not enough. She urged the court to apply the fullest extent of the law, describing the actions of William and his partner as cruel and deeply disturbing. The judge agreed with her appeal and sentenced the 33-year-old William to life imprisonment as a particularly dangerous offender, though with the possibility of parole. William later challenged this designation, and in August 2019, the North Dakota Supreme Court ruled that it had been improperly applied. As a result, a new sentencing hearing was ordered, which took place on October 7th, 2019. Although the judge disagreed with the ruling, he sought to impose the harshest sentence possible and ultimately sentenced William to 20 years in prison. Outside the courtroom and beyond the complex legal proceedings, Savannah's loved ones worked to rebuild a sense of normalcy, believing that her baby deserved a full life rather than one defined by grief. For Ashton, every moment spent with his daughter was especially meaningful. After surviving such a traumatic ordeal and enduring an intensely painful period, Ashton told the press he felt relieved that life for both of them had become calmer and more stable. He devoted himself to studying business administration at a local community college. With limited financial resources, he also searched for better employment opportunities alongside his responsibilities as a parent. He expressed gratitude for the support provided through the fundraising account, using the funds to purchase a vehicle and make improvements to their modest home. In my opinion, this case stands out as one of the most deeply disturbing examples of calculated, obsessive violence I've come across, not just because of the brutality, but because of the intent behind it. What makes it especially chilling is that it wasn't impulsive. It appears rooted in a long history of fixation, manipulation, and a desire to control reality at any cost. The fact that someone could meticulously plan to take another woman's child in such an inhuman way shows a complete detachment from empathy and morality. Equally unsettling is how the warning signs, her past behavior, threats, and disturbing obsessions were visible yet never fully acted upon. It leaves you with a haunting realization: this tragedy might not have been entirely unpredictable, which makes it all the more painful and frustrating.